Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Rays Rewind with Bell, Bushman, and Drew.
Jansen. That is into center field. Here comes Kiermaier. Phillips has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around. Throw home. Now he stumbles. But the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it. Brett Phillips, Game 4 hero.
The sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome, everybody. It is the Rays Rewind podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. Welcome back in, everybody. It is myself, the great L. Bushman, and Drew. It's been a while. My beard's grown longer, and I look like a caveman. And there isn't really anything going on in Tampa Bay Rays news except for what happened today. But before we get into that, make sure to go to our YouTube page, hit the subscribe and notification bell at the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind when new episodes drop, which they're going to be probably gearing up pretty soon because, well, it's going to be February in the next couple of days. Pitchers and catchers will be reporting pretty soon, and then spring training will be happening. And then the 2025 Tampa Bay Rays season will begin. Drew, some big news yesterday. The Rays filled a much-needed spot, which we were kind of lacking on. So the Rays kind of did some moves this offseason, filled in the catcher spot. Signed yesterday Ha-Seong Kim, free agent that was with the San Diego Padres last year. He's now going to be filling in the shortstop spot when he comes back from being off the IL. He's coming off of a shoulder surgery. So he should be back probably May-ish. According to reports yesterday, but I like it. I like the signing. Big splash. He's got a great bat. He's great defensively. Former Gold Glove winner. I think this really boosts up the infield for the Rays. But obviously, with him at shortstop, there's a lot of questions. But I wanted to get your thoughts on the signing yesterday of Ha-Seong Kim.
Yeah, I think it's a great signing. He's been out there for a little while. And a lot of the articles I've read, they didn't really consider the Rays as an option, considering the amount of money it would take to sign him, which is always a pretty apt reason for the Rays not to be signing somebody.
Right.
So I really wasn't expecting it. But I think it's a really great signing for the Rays on a number of fronts. It's $13 million this year, so I think that makes him the highest paid hitter on the roster. Because I think Lau's option, I think, was 12.5, or low double digits.
I think he was either 10 or 11 for his option.
Yeah, so he's a Gold Glove shortstop. I'm almost shocked that the Rays addressed their obvious needs on the roster through free agency as well as they did. Jury's still out on Danny Jansen, but obviously he's a better option than anything that we had in-house. It was pretty much understood Taylor Walls was going to be the starting shortstop this year. And I've been willing to give Taylor Walls some leash.
That leash is very short.
Because of
very short now.
And, he's a switch hitter, and it's just like, the bar, he just has to be average to below average at the plate for him to be really valuable. But this pretty much, I think, makes his time as the starting shortstop, that first month or so, and while Kim's still rehabbing from his shoulder surgery, as you mentioned, I think that pretty much means Walls will be headed to the bench come May or June. I will say one thing, the Ha-Seong Kim, some of the other free agents out there, he's obviously not somebody that maybe is garnering as much attention for good reason. And he was hurt at the end of last year, so he wasn't in that playoff run for the Padres. But I did read that, so F4, which is the Fangraphs wins above replacement, he has, in his time in baseball, he has a 10.6 F4, which puts him in the top 50 players in all of baseball during that time. And it's ahead of guys even like Pete Alonso, who's obviously getting more attention on the free agent market this year. than someone like Kim. So again, kind of one of those, he's not an under the radar guy like, a
Yeah,
Joey
he was listed
Winkle.
as one of the top free agents out there, and I think
Yeah, no.
what I liked about this signing was when the Rays did it, a lot of people were like, "Wait, he's signing with who? With
Mhm.
for how much?" And I think that maybe kinda I like this whole offseason for me with the Rays has been kind of like ho hum,
Yeah.
with the stadium drama, and they hadn't really been doing much. I mean, they signed Danny Jansen and Eloy Jimenez, which these guys they're fill-in guys.
Mhm.
They're stopgaps for some of these positions. And I was coming into the season as, all right, we might be 500, we might be a good team, but then you have a signing like this, which is like, okay, if they're pumping in money into a free agent like that, maybe that says something that they're not going to be like, hey, we're not going to compete. Maybe they do want to compete this year, which I hope they do. But it's almost like, you pulled me back in. You pulled me
Mhm.
back in, Rays, when I thought I was just going to be ho hum about this season. So, um, what this signing means to me is, they can spend money, people. They can spend money. I
Yep.
mean, if it's only a couple of years. But the funny thing is, do you know who his agent is?
I do.
Scott Boras. I
I
mean, which is
do.
kind
I
of
know.
funny because Scott Boras loves to get his people paid,
Yep.
and his relationship with the Rays front office hasn't been all that peachy keen because he wants to get his guys paid. And when it comes to the Rays,
Right.
they don't pay much, which is so it's kind of like how did the Rays pull this off with him having an agent like Scott Boras? Was nobody calling him, or was just the Rays offer
Maybe
that big where he was just like, hey,
maybe there's a language barrier still,
maybe.
and, there's just, a miscommunication about the actual, money on the deal.
But
Um
when it comes to when the infield is actually fortified, when he comes back,
Mhm.
that that infield is going to be a top infield. I mean, you got Caminero at third, you got
Mhm.
Kim at shortstop, you got Lowe at second base, and then you've got Diaz at first. Jensen and I mean, that's a great infield to
Yeah.
me. I mean, that's a top infield in the AL East and maybe in the AL to me. It's just my concern is, we need bats. He's got a great
Mhm.
bat. I think he's like a 250 hitter. I think in 2023 he was 260, but we need
Mhm.
more hitters. I mean,
Yep.
go out. There's guys available still that you can fill. I know Eloy Jimenez is probably going to come in as a DH here for the team too as well, but we need more pop to the bats. But defensive wise, I know that was an issue last year. Signing Kim really gives them a boost, defensive wise, which they were lacking on last year. So
Yeah,
I do like the signing.
I mean, it gives them so much more stability
Yeah.
at the shortstop position, assuming that's where he plays. I mean, I think I read he's played over 2,000 innings there, 2,500 innings at
His
shortstop.
main spot shortstop. He has played second base and
Yeah,
third, so
and
you can
third.
move him around if you wanted to.
Right,
But he's
someone needs a day.
primarily going to be at shortstop.
But, obviously, I mean, he's not, his hitting tool is not what, is what sticks out at first, but, you mentioned what were those averages?
I think his 2023 average was 260.
Yeah, I
That was
mean,
like his best year.
with what we were getting
Yeah,
from,
sub
Taylor
100.
Walls and Jose Caballero,
Yep.
right? I mean, that's 260 would be a godsend on the play, especially given his value in the field. So,
Mhm.
it's a right-handed bat. I do think we were talking before the show. Obviously, this signing with Kim, you would think when he's back fully healthy, he's in the starting lineup, certainly against lefties and probably every day. Um, that obviously affects guys like Taylor Walls, Jose Caballero, who were in there more days than not last season um, due to a lack of other options. Um, Ironically, it's funny because Taylor just signed that deal, which I realize it's technically a 2-year deal, but it really was just to avoid arbitration. Um, for him to sign that and then a week or so later potentially get pushed
I
out of the lineup.
also think this gives them an opportunity too, because it's almost is this could be T-Kraz brought this up on his show, I think yesterday or whatever,
Mhm.
and he thinks this is a stopgap from when Carson Williams comes up, which it could be. because right now it's Kim and Taylor Walls as your shortstop. Caballero, of course, could fit into as well in that position. I kind of think it could be a stopgap because Carson Williams is shooting up the ranks in the minors right now. I think he was ranked in the top 10 for the top prospects to watch this year. So,
Yeah.
Maybe later on this season you could see Carson Williams shoot up in the majors. But I think for the time being, you've got, 3 guys that could really fill in for that position right now. And the main guy is going to be Kim when he comes back healthy from the shoulder stuff. So
I think if Carson comes out, because he's probably going to be at AAA, right?
Yeah.
If he comes out and just kills it, and his strikeouts are down, but he's hitting for power and all those those things that we're looking for him to keep up or improve upon this year. I think then you would see if they just felt like he was forcing their hand. He comes up, it's a situation where they can slide Kim around, because Carson is one of those prospects that the Rays, you're going to hear, they're going to say, when we bring him up, we want him playing it every day. We want to make sure he's ready.
They're gonna take their time like they did with Junior.
Yeah, it's going to be a similar what we've heard with Junior, Wander, all those guys. Like, they're not going to bring him up and play him sparingly or every other day or just against lefties. It's going to be he's the starting shortstop. Bar, none, no exceptions. So that would mean, I think if it was this year that he came up, I think then you're looking at guys like Taylor Walls or Jose Caballero maybe losing a spot on the roster. But you would think that those two, out of those 2 guys, both of them are not going to have these great years. Maybe one surprises us, but so yeah, I mean, I think it does give them a little bit of an insurance policy too. If Carson struggles in AAA and they need a little bit longer runway, you have an established guy like Kim. I also don't even think Carson was going to be up this year personally.
I don't think he is either. If he comes up, it's probably going to win the rosters expand later on in the year.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be like he's just really crushing it.
Yeah.
I think or just a really big rash of injuries.
Because why would you pay Kim that money? Just to have him there for maybe not start, you know what I mean? That just wouldn't make sense to me.
Carson's glove is good enough. He could come up and be valuable to the team right now.
Yeah.
So I would imagine I don't think he would even be up at all things considered. But of course, you never know what could happen, whether his performance shoots up or there's just so many injuries that they run into a situation like where they brought Junior up at the end of the season in 2023. Straight from AA, unexpectedly. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great signing. The contract is great too. I mean, it's $29 million total with an opt-out after this year, which is funny to see with the Rays. But really, it's kind of a win-win. I mean, I know the money shoots up to $16 million next year, but you would think if he comes back and plays really well, which would be great for the Rays, of course, for this season. He opts out for more money in free agency after this year, well, then they can get a qualifying offer or a draft pick. If they ask for a qualifying offer and he rejects it. So, you feel like he comes out, performs really well. He either wants to stay because he likes playing here or he leaves. The Rays still get something out of it past this season in the form of a, draft pick compensation with a qualifying offer. So,
yep.
And then, hey, who knows? Maybe he's playing well and the team's not performing well. I don't know. Maybe, he's still relatively cheap enough for other teams that, you could maybe get some value from him in a trade. You hate to talk about that already. They don't even have the physical finalized yet. But, with the Rays, that's always kind of
an option,
reality. It's something you always got to consider. But, for a team like the Rays, that's certainly some of the value in the contract. But, yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I really didn't think they would sign a starting shortstop at this point.
It kind of came out of left field, no pun intended. It came out of left field that signing yesterday, and a lot of people. I was on X or Twitter yesterday, and a lot of people were like, "That's a steal. That's a great signing." And some people were like, "Oh, the Dodgers are crying right now because they couldn't get Kim from the Padres." So.
Yeah. So good for the Rays, and I hope he's back in the May timeframe, closer, so that they can get him in the lineup soon.
Another prospect who is clearly becoming almost like the new face of the team has really put himself in the limelight of national media with the home run yesterday, a couple of days ago. I don't know how long I can play this before YouTube cranks it out on us, but Junior Caminero with the longest home run trot ever,
Oh, man.
which by Dominican baseball rule, I think
Yeah.
that's okay. But he has really made himself a name now. It's almost like the Randy Arozarena effect. You know how Randy did in the World Baseball Classic?
Yeah.
Junior's kind of doing the same thing.
That's exactly what I was thinking about
Yeah,
when I
exactly.
saw this is, Randy had such a breakout, and
Mhm.
I say breakout, I mean, he was already a big favorite for the Rays and Rays fans, but
Yeah.
nationally became such a bigger name. I guess you say internationally with the World Baseball Classic, but for baseball, he became much more marketable and much more of a guy in baseball with his performance, and he carried that into a really great 2023 season. That was, the home run derby. He was a starting all-star, and not saying that Junior's going to necessarily accomplish those exact things, but I really felt like you saw Randy perform so well in the World Baseball Classic and then just kind of carry that momentum into the beginning of the season. And while this is taking place much further away than from the start of the season than the World Baseball Classic does, I would like to think that
I
this is
think this
only
is
going to be
I think this is a
positive.
start of something.
Yeah,
It's a start of something
yeah.
because not to mention his name, and I will as a side note, I was going through my graded baseball cards yesterday and I found a stack of graded Wander Franco cards. I'm like, these are worth nothing now. I just tossed them aside.
Yeah.
But I think Junior's it's the momentum of he is starting to be the face of the franchise. I think that's what it's going to come to be, is he's now going to be that centerpiece of what we've talked about before in past shows. Is this is the guy you can build around, because
Mhm.
he's starting to become that face of the franchise. And with that performance in that game, I think he's putting his name out there. And I think it's hopefully for things to come this year of how he performs with the team, because now you have him for a full year now. He's been hitting a ton. So I think
Mhm.
coming in, I think it's just going to be great for the team, because look, hopefully the sting of Ron DeFranco is starting to wear off. And now the era
Curse.
well, the curse, yeah, and the curse of him is starting to wear off, and maybe Junior is going to be replace that. What could have been superstar in Wander is now like, this is the superstar I'm making with Junior Caminero, and I'm starting to try and gobble up all Junior Caminero cards, because hopefully those will be worth something pretty soon. But
Yeah, I
I
mean,
digress.
he killed it, in the
Yeah.
Dominican. I honestly, what was more, what I love seeing the most out of, obviously the home run was great and the home run trot and everything, but, uh
57 seconds, by the way.
yeah, that was awesome. The bat flip too was like instant.
Went like 80 feet that way.
I've said this on the show before. I am such a big fan of when guys on the Rays make national headlines.
Yep.
And not in the Wanderers case with the legal stuff, but when Wander had that flip to himself, and against the Pirates, or Randy showing out in the World Baseball Classic, and all the things, like, when the Rays have attention being brought to them in that way nationally and across the sport, I think it's great.
Will
And it
you
only
buy a
serves
Junior
us better.
Caminero jersey?
I don't know. They're
Too early to
expensive, and
tell?
I shelled out money for my customized Wander jersey a couple of years ago, so I don't know. I actually got online to see if I could find a Junior Escogido. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Escogido, the uh, the Lions Leonis jersey that he has. I was seeing that they had a Junior one,
Mm.
because I was like, that'd be kind of fun to get. But yeah, I mean, he's quickly becoming. I mean, we kind of expected not necessarily that performance, but we're going to expect big things from this year. And the biggest couple things that I've seen in the press, Tampa Bay Times talked about it a couple weeks ago. Kevin Cash, they went down there, planned trips, all the things. I guess it's off-season talk, but nutritionally, his off-season workouts, those types of things, he's just been doing everything they've asked for and more, which is great to see some seriousness and how he's taking care of himself in the off-season. um
He looks
he looks
slimmer.
good.
Yeah, he
Pool,
looks slimmer. He looks a little bit bulkier, which is a good, like,
yeah,
muscle wise.
Pujols
Yeah.
has said nothing but great things about his leadership on the team, which is awesome to see. That the clubhouse presence, he was showing up hours, like he was the first one to show up to the field, like those types of intangible things that I think we wanted out of Wander. We weren't getting, and we were getting quite the opposite, it seemed like,
Yeah.
from what the Times would report. So that's what excites me the most is that it seems like guys love playing with him. He's, just really great about being passionate in the clubhouse, in the dugout, cheering on his teammates. And that to me, it means as much in terms of like, okay, is this guy going to be the guy for us? Because the Rays, like,
I think they desperately
like
need
Willie,
something like
Kevin
this.
Kiermaier, like
Yeah.
those guys that we had, they were also the biggest cheerleaders in the clubhouse. They were the first guys out, and that's what I love to see from our best guys. So that home run was pretty sweet. I didn't watch like the full games, but I was definitely keeping track of what was going on and with MLB TV, trying to watch his at bats. And he didn't disappoint. So
It's
we'll see,
crazy,
man.
I'm excited to
Trying to keep
go.
my expectations down, but
I'm excited to go watch him play. I mean, it's crazy to think that just the turn of the page, like pitchers and catchers are going to like report like
week and a half.
Yeah, like spring training is going to be in full effect in the next few weeks. Like especially
gonna-
where I live, it's like a 20-minute drive from, where the Pirates play or the Orioles play. I can drive 30 minutes down to see the Rays playing down in Port Charlotte. It's like, oh, what? It's here. It's like, oh, wow.
I'm trying to get to opening day. We're gonna be we're gonna be back down.
Are you excited or are you anxious to see what the single game tickets are going to be now that they jacked up the season tickets?
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic that they're going to be okay. I'm disappointed because I always like sitting in the outfield at the Trop. There are very little to no outfield seats at this Steinbrenner Stadium, whatever. So I should call it Legends Field. Let's go throwback.
It's the Trop 2.0.
Yeah. So, that's disappointing to me, but considering that I won't be down in Florida much during the season, other than at opening day, I'm willing to splurge a little bit. I think my wife and I are going to try and make it out. So we're going to try and catch the Rays on the road a few times this year. So we'll see. But yeah,
I might go to Texas when they face the Rangers in Arlington.
That's like right at the beginning of the season, I think.
Yeah, well, the beginning of the season usually starts around my birthday. So the Rays play them like on my birthday. I'm like, I told my wife, is like, let's go to Texas. Let's go out there. Let's
see my birthday's right when the 15th of February, so it's always like right when.
Yeah, you're right in the middle of spring training. So
well, that's a tough series to go to, man. They haven't won in Texas in like I think a decade. It feels like so.
Well, I'm starting to do that. I'm starting to do that whole check off all, the baseball stadiums. So like that's one I haven't been to. So like that could be a check mark. So
yeah.
So, all right. Well, that's all from us today. Thanks for joining in. I know it's been a while since you've seen our beautiful faces, but of course, since baseball will be gearing up pretty soon, you'll be seeing more of our pretty faces. So make sure to go to our YouTube page at the Sick Podcast, Rays Rewind, hit the subscribe notification bell for new episodes that will drop coming soon. It is the Sick Podcast. It is the Rays Rewind, the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. We'll see you later. Peace.
See you.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind with Bushman and Drew on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.